I'm Erica, and while I just do the quickest intro ever, I would love to invite you to find the chat. And in the chat, can you give me a thumbs up if you have the option to write to everyone? Okay, good, because that was off last time. But in the chat, just write to me where you're calling in from, what number TNN event this is for you, and what you are hoping to learn today. We're so excited. Sarah, you want to give a little wave? Sarah's here. She's like budget Europe extraordinaire. So I can't wait to have her share with you all today just how to plan a budget trip to Europe and all the stuff that she's learned in her many trips and a lot of time in Europe. So I'm really excited. But before I do that, I just want to let you know that you will be muted. Like I said, turn your camera on. We love to see your faces. You will be muted. There's going to be a bunch of people in this room. Feel free to use the chat to uh, comment, give your feedback, and share your relevant experiences. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. I will be monitoring the chat, and it's much easier if you type the word question before it so that I can pick those out pretty easily, just in case the chat goes crazy, in a good way. And I would love to then ask them to Sarah afterwards. So I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Erica. I help Matt run this network, the Nomadic Network, and we're here to just empower you with resources, knowledge, and connections that will get you traveling cheaper, better, longer, and more. So without further ado, I would love to pass the mic on to Sarah so she can dig in. She already warned me that this is a very information packed presentation. So make sure you have your pen and paper, and also I wanted to let you know that you'll be getting the slides in your email in the next few days. So do not worry if you are driving and listening to this, you'll be getting the slides. And so I'll pass it on to you. Take it away, Sarah.
Hi, thank you, Erica. Hi, everybody. I'm going to share my screen real quick, and it'll just take me a second. But I'm with you all today from Arizona. Actually, I'm visiting family, so I'm at my mom's house in the little room here. So don't mind the bed behind me. I usually live in London, but today I'm so excited to be talking to all of you about how to plan a budget trip to Europe, especially because summer in Europe is coming up. A lot of people are probably thinking about this. So I'm just going to dive right in. So I'm Sarah. I was born in Berkeley, California. I fell in love with Europe and with traveling when I studied abroad in London in 2015. I moved to London in 2019 permanently. I launched HostelPass, my company, in 2021. And I am passionate about solo travel. I'm passionate about creating community. And I'm also passionate about entrepreneurship, especially female founders. So just to tell you a little bit about my budget travel journey and why I started HostelPass, this is a picture of when I budget traveled a little bit too hard. So I was staying in an Airbnb in a major city in Europe, and I ended up having a really creepy host. It made me feel super unsafe and uncomfortable. This is a picture I actually sent to my mom at the time. I was only 20 years old. I was traveling all by myself. It was my first time. And my door didn't lock, and I was worried about my host coming in at night. It was not a good situation. So I was lying there on the futon in that room, and I was thinking, there has to be a better way. I wish I had resources to know that I wouldn't end up staying 40 minutes outside the city center, which is where I was in this photo, that I wouldn't have a creepy host or other people that were creepy in the place I was staying, that, that it was affordable. Because I was here because I was staying because I was on a super tight budget and I didn't have enough money to just splurge on a hotel room in the center of the city. So there are ways to not have to do this. And that is what I spent the next 6 years of my life working on. HostelPass, which I'll get into later, but just a brief overview. HostelPass is my company. It's a digital discount card that unlocks up to 40% off at the best hostels, tours, experiences, and more all across Europe for an entire year. So now I'll get into why you're really here. Here's how you can plan a budget trip to Europe. We're going to talk about so many things today, so bear with me. It's going to be hopefully in the order you'll be thinking about them as well. We're going to start with getting into the right mindset for your trip. We're going to talk about picking budget-friendly destinations, timing your trip for savings. We're going to talk about, sorry, my computer's lagging a little bit, hacking your way to cheap flights, saving big on accommodation, how you can pack light and save money, getting around cheaply, eating on a budget, sightseeing without breaking the bank, and then if you stick around to the very end, you will get an exclusive discount on your HostelPass membership. So stay with us. So first, getting into the right mindset is really important for budget travel. And I want to say the fact that you are here is a really good start. A lot of people think that travel is too expensive and they just don't go there, and they miss out on some amazing once in a lifetime experiences because of that. The fact that you are here and you're at this presentation about how to budget travel shows that you're already getting into the mindset of traveling cheaply. And things that you can do to help yourself stay in that mindset are to make little changes now. So if you stop ordering food or going out to restaurants, if you make little changes like cook more of your meals or don't pay for coffee every day, start making it yourself, things like that, you are going to be not only saving money for your trip every day, those little numbers add up, you'll also be getting into the right rhythm for when you're traveling, and you'll be saving money while you're on the road if you keep those practices going. So living that way while you're traveling won't feel as strange if you start doing it now. And that goes into planning and living like a local when you're traveling. So when you're living right now, what you're probably not doing in your home city is going out to eat every single day, paying tons of money for attractions every single day. That's just not how we live our lives every day because it's not sustainable. So if you're traveling Europe, if you want to make your dollar go further, what you want to do is plan to live like a local. Locals find the cheap restaurants, the nice places to go, the free things to do, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Finally, decide what's important to you and make it happen. So I don't want you to miss out on, say, that Michelin star restaurant in Italy that you saw. Like, this is not what budget travel means. If there's something that's expensive that you want to do, you can make it happen. So just make sure you're budgeting around for that. So that might mean compromising in other places, which is completely fine and completely doable. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity for a lot of people. Make sure you take advantage of it and do what's important to you. Okay, here's how you can pick some budget-friendly destinations for your trip. So I made this little table. These numbers are what I've seen and what I think is probably right. The most expensive region in Europe is Northern Europe, the Nordic countries, Iceland, Norway, Sweden, etc. The cheapest is Eastern Europe. So you can actually get by Eastern Europe with about 25 to 40 euros a day. And that's including accommodation. So we're going to talk about that as well. So these days, like if you are really budget traveling, staying in 20-bed dorm rooms at hostels and cooking all of your meals and like really scrounging, you can probably stay at the lower end of those if you really try. But if you are maybe planning to stay in like more private rooms or things like that, think about the higher end of that spectrum. And you might go over if there's something special you want to do, but these are just some theoretical numbers. So also, there are a lot of popular and cheap cities in Europe that I want to highlight. I'm going to tell you 3, but there are a lot more. I just don't have time to go into all of them. The first is Lisbon, Portugal, which is actually my favorite city in Europe. It's pretty affordable and it is beautiful and it's popular. So you don't have to miss out on those bucket list destinations you hear everyone talking about just because you're worried about saving money. Also, Athens, Greece, absolutely gorgeous and very affordable. And Budapest in Hungary as well. There are also some really good hidden gem countries, and I think you had a talk about this just recently about the Balkans. So I think that 3 of the countries that I would recommend are Bulgaria, which you can actually get by on 10 euros a day, including accommodation in that country. And Croatia as well is beautiful, and Montenegro, they're both Balkan countries. Croatia, you just might want to stay away from the places where Game of Thrones was filmed because those are getting really popular and a little bit more expensive. But I was there a couple of years ago. It is absolutely gorgeous and really affordable. Okay, so here's how you can time your trip for savings. First, when you're thinking about picking your dates, if you use that table I showed you before, this doesn't include getting to Europe and getting around Europe. This is just how you'd be spending your days in Europe. So if you want to go to multiple countries and you want to think about the flight costs to get to Europe, which we'll talk about in a second, what you can do is subtract what you think that will be and then divide your budget by these numbers, depending on the regions you want to go to. That will give you an estimate of how many days, how many weeks you could spend on your trip. Also, I really recommend you consider shoulder season. We're actually in shoulder season right now. April to June, right before it becomes high season summer, is a beautiful time in Europe. Things are not quite so expensive yet. Things aren't so touristy yet, and things are blooming and beautiful. Another side of shoulder season is September to November. September and October are beautiful times of year in Europe. And a lot of people miss them because they just want to go in the summer when it's hot. Skip the summer if you can. If you can't, we'll talk about ways to do that cheaply as well. But these are my absolute favorite times to travel. Winter is low season, and although it is the cheapest, I just think you're better off waiting until shoulder season, spending a little bit more money so that you can enjoy the weather and the daylight a little bit more in Europe. Also, just a final note here, be aware of visa restrictions. So there's the Schengen countries are almost all the countries in Europe. You have a 90-day limit as an American going to Schengen countries in a year. So 90 days within a year, if you plan to travel longer term, you're going to have to look at actual visa options, but you don't have to apply for anything if you're just going to Europe for less than 90 days within a year as an American. In the UK and Ireland, it's up to 180 days of a year. So you can go for 90 days to the Schengen area, and then if you want, you can hop over to the UK and stay for 6 months. But just be aware of those when you're planning your trip. Cheap flights, let's talk about them. So I really recommend you sign up for some flight alert newsletters. If you are not signed up to any already, that's fine. If you know the dates you're going to go, these might not be as useful for you. All of these are really good options for signing up for getting alerts when airlines have mistake fares. So if an airline puts out a fare at the wrong price, and a lot of the time that would be cheaper than what they put, than what they meant to put, then what that means is they have to honor that price for 24 hours. All of these newsletters track those prices and those alerts and will tell you when they happen. So you can put your home city in all of these newsletters, and then they will give you alerts when there are cheap flights from your home city to other places. Also, if airlines are having flash sales, these newsletters keep track of that as well. So sign up for all of these newsletters if your dates are a little more flexible. If you know when you want to go, check out Google Flights. I know Skyscanner is another option. I prefer Google Flights for this reason. You can put Europe as your destination. On Skyscanner, you need to choose countries. So if you know countries, Skyscanner is a great way where it aggregates all the different flights. But Google Flights, the fact that you can put Europe is great. And a hack for this, which is my first HostelPass hint, zoom out the map when it shows you these options. Because what that means is it'll show you Iceland. Iceland doesn't show up when you're first just looking at the map of Google Flights in Europe, but Iceland has these budget airlines now from the US to Europe, and you can often get there for much cheaper than other places. I like to use this because if you're going from the US to Europe, you can kind of start your trip wherever is the cheapest flight to Europe. Once you're in Europe, getting around is way cheaper than flying from the US to Europe. So there are a lot of budget airlines and trains, and we'll talk about that later as well. Also on Google Flights, you can put here 2-week trip in the next 6 months, or you can kind of adjust your schedule so you can be a little flexible and find the cheaper deals that way. Now, I won't linger on here too long, but if you are a student, check out Student Universe. There are student deals for flights here, and it's just studentuniverse.com. And also Matt has really great articles. So this one particularly is awesome. 14 easy tips to always find cheap flights. You can find, I guess I'll send you the slides, but take note of that if you want to like really dive into this topic. It's really good. Accommodation. This is my forte. So the first thing you have to do is, Stay in hostels. These are the best places to stay if you're budget traveling, and they are not just for young people. They are for people of all ages. They have private rooms now. I'll tell you more about that in a little bit, but hostels are essentially hotels with shared rooms or private rooms, but when you're paying for a bed in a room instead of a whole room itself, you're paying a fraction of the price. So this is the Generator Hostel in Venice on the left here. This is Avenue Hostel in Budapest. And the other thing about hostels is they're very communal. They have organized activities. They have a lot of the time free meals, free breakfast, sometimes free dinner. And you can go there, go to the common areas and just say, hey, I'm Sarah, I'm from, California. What are you doing here? And then you just have a friend and you'll spend the day together. It's like the best way to travel, especially solo. Popular things in hostels are dorm rooms. This is my favorite hostel in the world, Eco Mama in Amsterdam. This is one of their shared rooms. And then also they do have private rooms as well. This is a Generator Hostel in Rome, where for private rooms, it's great if you are traveling in a couple or if you are a bit older and you just want more privacy or you don't want to be sharing with a bunch of people. They are usually the same price as a budget hotel. So you're getting the benefits of community. You might have your own communal kitchen within the hostel. You can cook your own meals, but you're still getting the privacy of your own room. So here's some hostel hacks to help you save money at hostels. Book early. And this one annoys me because it's kind of a new hack. When I was traveling, and part of why I ended up in that situation was because I was being spontaneous. I was booking everything last minute and there was no availability at hostels in that city when I stayed. So I do recommend you book early, especially since COVID. Things are filling up really fast, and hostels have this technology now on their booking platforms where if there are things filling up if their rooms are filling up, their platform will up the price. They're not even like, the hostel managers aren't doing this themselves. Their software is doing this where the more full the rooms are getting, the higher the price will be for that room. Book early, book a flexible rate. These are usually a couple dollars more, but they could save you so much money because if you have your plan and you book your hostels and you're booking them flexible rates, then you can cancel for free. So you still have that spontaneity, but you are able to have your bookings locked in if you want. Look for location, and this is my second HostelPass hint. Do not sacrifice location for small savings. If you stay somewhere in the city center, you will be saving that €5 or whatever it is on paying for transportation. You'll be able to walk everywhere. You'll have so many benefits of being centrally located, and it's also safer not to have to walk home or find your way home after a night out when you're traveling, especially alone. Also look for perks. So a lot of hostels will have things like organized events, free breakfast, free meals, free dinners. Some have swimming pools, some have communal kitchens. So like keep an eye on that. Also some and a lot of HostelPass hostels have free welcome drinks. And in Europe, drinks are not necessarily that cheap. So if you are getting a free drink from your hostel, you could be saving €7 in a way because you wouldn't be buying that at a bar somewhere else. And finally, use HostelPass. So that is an obvious one coming from me, but I'm going to tell you why so I don't sound biased. So we have the absolute cheapest rates on dorms and private rooms at hostels around Europe. I'll get into that in a moment. HostelPass is valid for an entire year. So if you travel once, you can come back later because I know you're going to love Europe and you're going to want to come back. We only work with top quality, centrally located, vetted, curated hostels. And that is because I didn't want anyone to have to be in the situation that I was in. I wanted people to know that if they're using HostelPass, they're getting access to vetted accommodation that is centrally located, safe, great for solo female travelers, but also just great for everyone. We also have bonuses that are exclusive to HostelPass users at these hostels. Sometimes HostelPass hostels will give HostelPass users free breakfast, late checkout, free welcome drink, etc. So that just saves you a lot of money just as sort of a non-monetary thing you can think about. We also don't just have hostels. I'll get into that later, but we have a lot of other benefits like tours, experiences, travel essentials, etc. So keep watching and I'll tell you about those too. And we plant a tree for every sale. So every time someone joins HostelPass, we plant a tree. Okay, so you heard me say I have the cheapest rates and you probably want me to prove it, and I'm going to do that. So This picture on the left is of the Avenue Hostel in Budapest. And I'm not lying when I tell you, I just took the first hostel that came to mind. I was thinking Budapest, Avenue's a hostel in Budapest. Budapest is cheap. Let me use an example there. I didn't try anymore. And this is what happened. 12-bed dorm at Avenue Hostel, a weekend in shoulder season, September 15th to September 17th. Say you're looking on Hostel World, which is a booking platform for hostels at this hostel. This is 2 nights, okay? So for 2 nights, you'd be paying 58 euros and 80 cents for a bed in that 12-bed dorm on those dates. If you're booking direct, you're paying, and that means directly on the hostel's website, you book directly with them, you're paying 47 euros and 4 cents. What HostelPass does is it gives you discounts on top of direct booking rates. So when you're booking with HostelPass, you're getting a 20% discount on this hostel, and this is a flexible rate. So you're only paying 37 euros for this hostel. And that's compared to 21 euros savings compared to Hostel World, and about 10 euros savings compared to booking direct. And that makes a big difference. That's only for 2 nights. Remember, your HostelPass is valid for an entire year. So I just want to prove this to you a little bit. And I want to point out some things that HostelWorld is doing. If anyone from HostelPass is here, I'm going to tell you this because I'm not happy about the fact that you're doing this on your website. They say you get the best bed price, right? And that doesn't mean the best bed price anywhere. That means the best bed price that HostelWorld can offer you on their website for this hostel and this bed. So it's a bit of a nothing statement. They're also saying you're getting a 28% discount, and they started doing this after we came around. And it kind of frustrates me because what they're doing is still giving you with a 28% discount, a more expensive rate than what the direct booking rate with our discount is. So what I was showing you was the rate for the non-discount because the discounts are temporary on HostelWorld. On HostelPass, they're year round. And also, this is nothing digging at HostelWorld. I just want to mention taxes. This is just something to keep in mind when you're traveling to Europe. A lot of the times there are city taxes that are due upon collection at arrival to your accommodation. If you stay in hostels, the taxes will be cheaper a lot of the time than if you stay in hotels because they're considered lower tiers of accommodation, which means they're a little less expensive. And these are charged per person per night. So just make sure you budget a few extra euros per night just for this in case it comes up. Sometimes it's included, but a lot of the time it isn't. So back to the discounts. So this is with the HostelWorld 28% discount. Just don't be fooled by those numbers because you can pretty much always get it for the cheapest possible rate, cheaper than that on HostelPass. You're still getting it for 5 euros cheaper, even with a 28% discount. Okay, so that's dorm rooms, right? But let's talk about private rooms. This is the same hostel, same dates, but we're thinking of a private double room. This is a picture of the room on the left for 2 nights. If you're booking on HostelWorld, that room is going to cost you 230 euros for those 2 nights. Direct, 184 euros. It's already a lot cheaper. With HostelWorld, it's only going to cost you 147 euros and 27 cents for 2 nights. And that is in September for a weekend in Budapest. You're saving 82 euros and 81 cents compared to HostelWorld, and you're saving 36 euros and 81 cents compared to booking direct. This stuff is all true as well for if you're booking on booking.com or other platforms, because all of those work the same. They take commissions from hostels, so they up their rates. So I'm using HostelWorld because it's a really well-known hostel booking platform. Okay, so that's hostels. And I will mention there are other ways to stay in Europe. It's not just hostels. If you're really on a tight budget, I think you should check out Couchsurfing. This is a platform where you can, it's kind of a sharing economy deal where you can stay on someone's couch and for free, exchange usually for cooking them a meal or teaching them a new skill. It's a sharing economy like Travelers Supporting Travelers platform. You just usually want to pay, I think it's like $30 to verify yourself on Couchsurfing so that you can then, people trust you and you can trust them and all that stuff. World Packers is another option if you are traveling longer term. World Packers is a way to volunteer and get room and board for free. So you could do things like work at a hostel and they'd put you up in a room for free and feed you some meals, or you could work on a farm. There are a lot of different options. And if you do want to join World Packers, we can get you 20% off with HostelPass on your World Packers membership. So you need to join to actually be able to access applying for these positions. So we're not just hostels on there. That's the beginning of the other benefits we can get you with HostelPass. Now, here's how you can pack light and save money on your trip. So I'm going to share some packing hacks with you. The first is you do not need to check a bag. I know people think they need to check a bag. I know people think that they need more than they do. You do not need it, I promise. Unless you're going skiing and bringing a lot of gear or something like that, you can pack in a carry-on and it will save you so much money. It will also make getting around the cities when you're traveling from city to city so much easier. You won't have to pay for a taxi to put all your luggage in. You can actually, a lot of the time, carry it on your back. There are backpacks that have detachable day packs. I actually have one of these and I have the day pack with me. So this backpack you see, this pack is attached to the front. And then what's great about this is that big pack in the back, you can leave at your hostel or your accommodation and then take this pack with you while you're out on the day. And you can have your essentials with you. It's just a really good way to pack. I understand that's not the way for everyone, but just if you are interested, these packs usually cost around $220. But look on eBay and at outlet stores because a lot of travelers come back and they're not necessarily going to use them anymore. They're going to upgrade. You can probably find these for a lot cheaper than that. If putting things on your back just isn't practical for you, which I totally understand, you're fine to get a roller bag. Just you can do it if you make it carry-on size. So look at the restrictions of the airlines you're traveling for what is carry-on sized. Think about if you're going to use budget airlines in Europe, they have really strict restrictions. Take a look at that. I promise you can make it happen. So when you pack light and you pack the right stuff, this becomes a lot easier. And if you're traveling in shoulder season around the summertime, you won't need heavy jackets and things like that. So that will save you space as well. Here's some physical essentials that I want you to remember to pack that will save you money. First is a universal adapter. You won't have to carry a bunch of different adapters with you. That'll save you space, and these will work in all the places you're going to in Europe. It's also great because you can charge multiple things with it. So I really recommend that. A portable charger, I have this exact one, and I can't tell you how much peace of mind it gives me to know that if I'm out and about exploring, I'll be able to access my maps. I'll be able to communicate with people back home, and I don't have to worry about my phone dying. This particular charger gives me 2 days of charging at least. Combo lock hostels will often have security lockers. Every hostel we work with has security lockers, so you can store your stuff safely. So if you buy a combo lock at home and bring it with you, then that is a really great way to save money because a lot of the time they'll sell combo locks if you forget them at the hostel, or you'll have to rent them. So buy your own, it's super cheap, like $4, and it'll save you money. Microfiber towel is optional, but I wanted to throw it in here if you do have space in your bag, because if you're staying in dorm rooms, a lot of the time you might also have to rent towels at the hostel. So if you're staying in a private room, they'll usually give you a towel for free included in your room. But dorm rooms, if you bring this, it's super compact, it dries really quick. And if you bring it, it's like $8 and it'll save you renting it at the different hostels you go to. Water bottle. This is like a really lightweight water bottle that's you can even just attach with like a carabiner to your backpack so it doesn't take space in your bag. Water in Europe, in pretty much every European city, is drinkable. So I want you to not be afraid to drink the tap water in Europe. The only place I went where it wasn't an option, I think, was like a Greek island. So if you bring a water bottle, you'll save so much money buying water when you're traveling or buying drinks. So I definitely recommend that. Also, this won't save you money, it'll save you sleep if you're staying in dorm rooms, or even if you're staying in private rooms at hostels. Sometimes people are allowed. Bring your eye mask and earplugs, it'll just be really helpful. Don't forget your medications. This is just, I like to remind this to everyone because sometimes you can't get the stuff that you're used to back home. Things like Tylenol and ibuprofen will be cheaper in Europe, but if it's like a prescription medication, just do not forget it. You don't want to end up in that situation. Which leads me on to don't forget to get travel insurance, because a lot of people think that it's an extra expense, but the amount it will save you if something happens is so worth it. So check out Insure My Trip. This is a great option to browse and compare plans. But if you are a budget traveler, you can use Safety Wing for affordable monthly plans, or Insured Nomads if you're traveling a bit longer term. So those are my 2 recommendations, but Insure My Trip will show you lots of other options. Okay. So other travel essentials would be a credit card. So I'm actually going to leave this one to Matt because you guys all know who he is and he's like the points guy. He knows everything about this stuff. So check out this blog post he has, the best travel credit cards for 2023. I copied in this table that he put in that post, and it's actually not something I'm very good at. So I'm just going to let him cover this because what I use is actually this thing called Revolut. I use this because when I moved to Europe, it became available to me, and I've recently learned it's available now in the US. This is a game changer. It's an app that has a virtual card on it. You can order a physical card, and what it does is it lets you exchange money at the exchange rate. You're not paying, I think if you pay $10 a month, you have up to $10,000 of exchanges for absolutely free. The amount this saves me living in Europe and changing US dollars to pounds, it's amazing. And all of it is on this app. So you'll get the physical card in the mail. Then what you can do is take money out at ATMs in Europe, and it will take out money and pay for you wherever you travel with your card in the currency you are in. So it will not try and charge you for those extra for those exchange rates. It's just like, it's a game changer. Also, it gives you an alert if you make a payment on your phone, which is really useful because although it's unfortunate, sometimes people's stuff does get stolen in Europe. If you're careful and you hold it close to your body, it shouldn't happen too much. But I do have friends who that's happened to. So you get an alert right away. If someone's making a transaction that you don't recognize, you can freeze your card on the app, and then you don't have to worry about someone spending all of your money. So I wanted to point that out. Credit cards will get you points and are probably a great way to go, but Revolut is my go-to. Also, I want to mention eSIMs. So this is a new technology as well. So if you've ever been traveling and you have ended up getting in that text from your phone provider being like, you're now in this country, you have to pay $10 a day. You don't have to do that anymore. So there's this thing called eSIM. I would guarantee that probably 90% of the people watching this have eSIM compatible phones. If you've got an iPhone or an Android and it's relatively new, like in the last 6 years probably, you have the capability to add a virtual SIM card. What that means is now what you can do is use apps. We partner with Zim Connections. You can use apps like this to search for where you're going, and you can download a data plan. So this one is my favorite. It's the Europe plan. So all of Europe, for 30 days, 20 gigs of data for 32 euros and 50 cents on Zim Connections. So think about 10 euros a day, or just the stress of not having data while you're trying to navigate a new city. I really recommend this as a way to not have to deal with that. And if you have HostelPass, you can get 20% off that 32 euro plan for your whole month. So you can get 20% off all eSIM data plans with Zim Connections. I want to mention no one is paying me to make any of these shout outs or to talk about any of these companies. The ones that we're partnered with, I want to shout about, obviously, because I rate them. I think they're cool. But yeah, I'm just trying to tell you how to save the most money here. So how to get around cheaply. We're almost done. Getting between cities, trains are pretty much the go-to method because this is a train like map of how to get around Europe by train. You can get everywhere with trains. This is actually the map for Eurail, and the Eurail pass is an interesting thing to consider. The way Eurail passes work is you can basically go on any of these routes, and they have passes for, say this example is 15 days within 2 months. So that gets you unlimited train rides within 2 months for 15 travel days, if that makes sense. You can choose the plan that works for you. You can do a global pass. You can do a certain like Italy pass, whatever you think. And this is a great way to just know how much you're budgeting for travel before you go. There are some downsides. There are reservation fees. When I was traveling, I used a Eurail pass. And in Italy specifically, I remember each train I took had an extra 10 euro charge for a seat reservation. I think that's getting a little bit worse now. So take a look and see what's right for you. Compare like the just buying individual tickets without a pass versus getting the Euro pass. You might have to do a little bit more research. So that's part of what budget travel is all about, like researching and figuring out what works best for your budget. So another HostelPass hint would be sleeper trains. You can actually get around Europe through night trains, and they'll have beds and they'll have these little rooms where you can sleep in the train. And what you're doing with that is you are paying for your accommodation and your transport all in one. If you take a sleeper train, you can actually have a lot of those done via your URL pass, but they will always have a reservation fee. So just make sure you check those before you go. Now, once you, other options for getting between cities are bus, which is by far the cheapest, but probably the longest way to travel. Flixbus is a great resource. I think they've recently acquired Megabus, which was the other one I was going to mention. So Flixbus is kind of the go-to now. Budget airlines like Ryanair, EasyJet, there are a whole bunch now, but those are the two main ones. Because of carbon emissions, I really like to promote if you can take trains, take trains. If you can take buses, take buses. But if you're going from Iceland, for example, you have to fly. You probably could take a ferry, but I don't have information on that. So budget airlines, the only thing about budget airlines is they seem really attractive because you might be able to get like a $20 flight to Ireland, but think about the train you'll have to get to the airport. Think about the baggage fees that might be hidden, because sometimes Ryanair like only lets you take an underseat bag. So you'll have to pay the cost of the flight again, just to get a carry-on bag as well. So just like, don't be fooled by those shiny, cheap numbers when you're first looking at those budget airlines. And also there's an app that's another sharing economy kind of thing called BlaBlaCar. So this is a way you can get from city to city. If someone is driving and going the same way you're going, you can look for people who are charging just a little bit of money for you to hop in their car and go with them. I think it's a lot safer than hitchhiking because you've got sort of vetted people through that app to see where they're going and you can hop in. Okay, getting around cities. So we've talked about getting between cities, but for getting around cities, oh, here we go. Walk. That's my top tip. So, and a HostelPass hint is there are free walking tours in pretty much every city in Europe. So you can do a free walking tour as a way to orient yourself around a new city, see the sights, and realize that cities are walkable. Cities in Europe are so much more built for walking than cities in America. They're a lot smaller. They're just so much better. So walking is free, and it's my number one way for getting around cities. Next would be public transport. We talked about living like a local. So you can figure out the public transport, I promise. Buses will be cheaper than trains or underground systems, but they're usually all very affordable. And you can taxi. A lot of European countries have Uber, but I just only do it if you have to, because that's definitely the more expensive option. And it's more fun to see the city by walking or public transport. Okay, how to eat on a budget. So I've got a lot of tips for you here for eating cheap. The first tip would be to stay at hostels with a free meal, usually breakfast or dinner, mostly breakfast. Sometimes they have free dinner. Those are really good ones. And my HostelPass hint here is if the hostel offers free breakfast, I always like to sneak a little bit of that breakfast with me for my day out. So they usually have like fruit and bread and things like that. And you can just take a little bag with you. I don't know if they'll love it if I'm saying this or if they see you doing that, but that's just a little hint. So that's a way to save on breakfast and lunch. And if they have free dinner, then there you go. Also, try and find a hostel that has a communal kitchen. I just love cooking in hostel kitchens because not only is it a cheap way to eat, you also meet people, and you meet people from different cultures who cook different food than you. And a lot of the time you end up collaborating on meals together, and you can eat some of the best meals of your life. And it's usually way cheaper because when you shop at grocery stores in Europe, it's kind of shocking how expensive grocery stores in the US are compared to in Europe. Like I'm back here visiting family and I can't believe I just paid like $8 for, I don't know. So just like, it's ridiculous how expensive food is getting over here. In Europe, shopping at grocery stores is a lot cheaper than going out to eat. So if you shop at grocery stores, cook it at the hostel, you're going to save so much money. Also, there's this new app. It's called Too Good To Go. I don't know if anyone knows about it yet, but this app is awesome. What you can do is download it and then look at the city you're in and find restaurants and cafes that have surplus food at the end of the day and are selling it for a fraction of the price that you could buy it during the day. So if you get this app, you can reserve to pick up like a bag of bread from a bakery or sushi from a sushi restaurant, whatever it is, and you can get it for just so cheap. So that's a super cool, like new hack that I found recently. And eat like a local. So if you avoid restaurants near tourist sites, if you were living in a city, say you're living in New York, you would not eat next to the Empire State Building, most likely. You would probably find something that's a bit more of a hidden gem that's further from the attractions. So think like a local. And usually if you go about 5 blocks from any major tourist destination, you will start to see the prices go down. So think about that and ask your hostel for recommendations for restaurants as well. This is our last bit before I give you your HostelPass discount. How to sightsee without breaking the bank. So here's how you can see the sites on a budget. First thing I would recommend is that walking tour that we talked about before. The way these work is you sign up for them or you find when they're happening and you go meet them and they're free. But at the end, the guide will usually ask for a tip. So you can tip them whatever you think it was worth, or it's optional. You don't have to if you don't have the money. It's a great way to just be able to see the city, and the guides are really passionate about what they're doing. A good company for this is Sandman's New Europe. So you can look, they've got tours in pretty much every city. But there are a lot of other companies as well, and your hostel will know about all of them. Visit free attractions. There's so much to do for free in Europe. London, where I live, they've got pretty much every museum is free. So you can go spend your whole day, and there's so many museums. So you can spend multiple days visiting free attractions. Cathedrals are all over Europe, and a lot of them are free. You can see those, they're beautiful. So just follow the free stuff. And ask your hostel. Hostel staff are trained in finding you fun things to do in the city that you're in. They will know also if you're staying at a specific hostel, you're probably into the things that same hostel is like putting out into the world. They'll know where to find that kind of stuff. So ask your hostel, you'll get some really good tips there. And obviously, use HostelPass. I mentioned we have experiences and tours as well. So this is just a handful of like the hundreds of discounts that we actually have on HostelPass. You can get 40% off on a pub crawl, for example, in London. We have a partnership with Secret Food Tours. They do food tours all over Europe. You can go to cooking classes in Italy. And they've also, this company we work with, they do like Vespa tours as well. There are city exploration games you can get discounts on, and even museums. The MoCo Museum they've got in Amsterdam and in Barcelona, it's a modern art museum. They've got Banksy, and it's just really fun. So that's a good one, because if you're a student, you can combine your HostelPass discount with your student discount and get even more of a discount. So I hear what you're thinking. You're like, okay, HostelPass sounds incredible, but it's probably like $300 a year because it's so good and going to save me so much money. Well, I'm happy to tell you it's not. It's $29.99 for an entire year of discounts on HostelPass. And you saw earlier that you could save triple that if you stay for a weekend in the shoulder season at a hostel in Budapest. Think of how much you could save if you're staying in a busier city or a more expensive city like London or Amsterdam. So I'm not going to stop there. I'm also going to get you a discount on your HostelPass, which gets you discounts. So here's what you're going to do to get that discount. You're going to go to hostelpass.co. So hostelpass.co, not .com, .co. You're going to click on Get HostelPass, and you're going to put in the code TNN30. That's going to get you 30% off your HostelPass. And that's going to be valid for only 48 hours. So you have to act quickly, but there's one more HostelPass hint. So this is something I shared last time when I was doing this presentation. I'm going to share it again. It's a little secret just for this group. But the way it works is when you go to buy your HostelPass, you'll see this. This is the page when you buy your HostelPass. First, I have to fix that because you're actually only paying $20.99 because of your 30% discount. So if you click, I am buying this as a gift. You see here that it says valid from, I've screenshotted this a couple of days ago. So valid from 26th of April to 26th of April, 2024 for a year. If you click on buying this as a gift, that changes to valid for 1 year from date of redemption. So what that means is you buy it now with your discount for the next 48 hours. You can redeem it whenever you're ready to start making your bookings and travel. So keep that in mind. And here is what you do again. Go to hostelpass.co, click Get HostelPass. Select you're buying it as a gift, and you're buying this as a gift for yourself. You can also buy it as a gift for all your friends. Don't hold back. And use coupon code TNN30. I will put this in the chat, or maybe someone else, but I'll put it in the chat when I'm done with presenting. But you'll also get an email about this, so you'll have all these instructions. And don't forget, it's only valid for 48 hours. So thank you so much. I hope that presentation felt like I was throwing money at you. And don't forget your discount. You can find us at hostelpass.co. You can follow us at HostelPass on TikTok and Instagram. And I am Sarah Weingust. I would love to chat to all of you and answer questions now. So I will.
Awesome. Amazing. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in. I'll try to get all your questions answered. We have a question that's just very logistical from Lorenzo. Is this for US citizens only or residents? No, right?
No, HostelPass, no. It's for everyone from anywhere.
Yeah.
I know most of you are probably Americans, so I did gear that, sorry, a little bit towards the US audience.
Cool. So I really just love this, and I am a hostel user for life. Like, I feel like hostels are the greatest gift to travelers, whether you stay in them or not. Like, not going to a hostel, and like utilizing their services, their lounges, their expertise, things like that is just like you're doing yourself a disservice. So for anyone on here that may feel like, okay, like I hear you, this is a budget trip to Europe. Of course, you're gonna talk about hostels, but you're still not sold on staying in one. Like, just know that you can also just utilize what hostels are giving you, even if you don't want to like sleep in them. And I love that whole part about the private room and, you know, all this that's being offered. Now that I'm not 20, I'm like, I look for like postals, I call them. And I feel like that's what you list on HostelPass. It's these like really nice hostels that you're not like on a rickety one of those like metal bunk beds that are like creaky. These are like nice places. And I feel like when I show people pictures, and when you were showing people pictures of the hostels, I'm like, yes. That's what I'm talking about. Let's change that perception.
Only the best.
Okay, so I just wanted to say that, but we had a lot of questions. I think first I would love for you to address just like if you're an older traveler. I know a lot of this is applicable to everyone of every age and all that, but can you just speak a little bit to the older traveler here and how they might be able to utilize these tips specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think private rooms at hostels are honestly the way to go. I will say some dorm rooms at hostels have age restrictions, but those hostels that have age restrictions on their dorms do not have age restrictions on their whole hostel. It's just those dorm rooms. So you can still be part of that fun and have that peace of mind and sleep a little bit better getting a private room. So I'm starting to do that as well, because I'm not 20 anymore either. And I recommend that. I also think in terms of traveling, I guess the backpack might not be as practical if you're not like a spry 20-year-old just like happy to buff around, but roller bags are awesome. Just carry on, so you can do it, I promise. And I think on HostelPass we have a lot of great experiences like the food tours and the cooking classes and all that stuff that are great for anyone of any age. Like, I'm actually struggling to think of things in this presentation that are specific to young people other than the dorm rooms.
Yeah, I love that. And we did have that question about like if you're not wanting to carry a backpack, and all these like budget airlines that you're talking about are getting more and more restrictive with their like luggage restrictions. And so I think that was also a question on their end, like, what do you do? Like, what do you do for carry-ons when you want to roll it and you also want it to be like acceptable as a carry-on?
Yeah, well, so for budget airlines, I don't abide by that. Like, well, first of all, sometimes they don't check, but I don't necessarily recommend that option. The other thing is, it's usually, I mean, the flights are so cheap, it just feels like a huge amount to pay in addition, because it feels like you're paying double the price. But if the flight's $20 and adding a carry-on is $20, like, it's really still a $40 flight, and that's pretty good. So I usually take a carry-on when I fly budget airlines anyway. The only times when I don't is if I'm literally going for 2 days somewhere and I know I can fit what I need in a backpack that I can fit under my seat. So don't let that like completely dissuade you from the flights. But there aren't budget restrictions, or there aren't baggage restrictions on trains, so, or buses. So those, if like, I promote non-carbon emission travel as much as possible. So if you do want to train or bus, you don't have to worry about those fees.
Very, very true. We had a question, a few people asked this question, but for HostelPass specifically, if you were booking for multiple people, whether it's you and a person or you and 5 people, is that one HostelPass or is that HostelPass per person?
That is per person. So you are going, the hostels a lot of the time will check that your pass is valid for the number of people that you are booking for, but you can select the number of people you're traveling with to add them all to your hostel pass. So you can say, this is a hostel pass for 4 people. It will make the price go up to reflect that, but it's an option if you're traveling with friends. And if you're doing a big group, then if it's like more than 6 people, then you're probably going to be, I don't know. I think we can accommodate that. We can do like a group discount for you. So you can message me about that, but that's not something we usually get very often. It's usually more solo than a couple of people traveling together.
That's awesome. And even if, I don't know, even if you know this answer probably, but even if you were a couple booking one private room, you would still need 2 hostel passes.
So if you're gonna, I mean, I would recommend it for if you're going to do experiences, if you're not just going to do like the room, because I think for your booking, I'd recommend you get 2, and that's not just because I want you to pay more money for HostelPass. It's because sometimes our partners do check. I'm just trying to think if they would check in that situation, and I don't.
Yeah, that's why I said I don't even know if you would know that.
Yeah.
And then we have a question about, is this just for Europe? Are you planning to expand further?
That's a really good question, and the answer is we do plan to expand further, like very soon. I think next on our list will be South America and Central America. Also want to do Southeast Asia, but for now it's just Europe. We have some partners in Israel, and we're starting to get some partners in Morocco, so kind of like getting fringes of Europe and like expanding a little bit out. But yeah, long term we're going to be global. So if you sign up now, we're probably going to raise our prices to reflect that. So yeah,
that's awesome. We had a bunch of questions come in just at the end, so I'm trying to sort through them a little bit. We definitely had the question come through a few times, like how far in advance would you recommend booking a hostel? Like what, I know you explained that, but like give us a range.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess it depends. Like if you're going to be traveling in the next 3 months, I'd start booking now. If you're going to be traveling like 6 months out, sometimes hostels don't have their stuff together and they haven't even like sorted out their room prices for then. So I'd say the sweet spot is probably like 2 to 3 months in advance. But keep an eye out, because sometimes if you do book earlier than that, if you know, then that's like, that can be cheaper. And don't be afraid of booking right before. Like you might be paying more, but I don't know. I just hate that travelers have to compromise on that spontaneity now. So like if you book the flexible rates, keep your options open. Like you've booked something, but you can get a full refund. So you can keep looking. And then if there's something else you want to do, you can try and plan that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. Then we have a question. I just want to I'm trying to group them so they sort of make sense. So they're not all hostel card questions. If you're going to stay on a few extra minutes, we're going to get to some Europe travel questions, but is the 2-person card transferable? So if somebody is traveling with their wife and then traveling with a friend later on in the year, would that be 3 passes or 2 passes?
So that's just 2. So essentially there's 1 pass holder. So you sign up and then you have the additional people that you'll be with. So you can it's going to be under your name, and the hostel's going to check that it's your pass so you should make the bookings with your name as well. And then you can have whoever the other people are. If you break up with your girlfriend, you won't get a new girlfriend. Like no one has to know. We don't care.
Okay, wonderful. All right. So we have a question about the SIM card you were talking about
Yeah.
and how it compares to Airalo or
Mm.
Olafly. Do you know?
So that's a good question. I know that Airalo is, I don't know the other one. I've used Airalo and I've used Sim. Airalo has like a few locations. It's a bit maybe better in like I used it in Africa essentially.
Okay.
But then I use Zim in Europe. So I think Zim is a newer company and they're gonna start expanding. Airalo are more established in other places. So for Europe, I vote Zim. But it's
Okay.
the same concept. So if you understand that, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. So that's good.
All right. Yeah, that was very interesting. I honestly did not know that. I feel like ashamed to say that, but I didn't know about that. It sounded really cool.
Good.
And also this Revolut card I'm assuming this works like a debit card, not like a
Yeah,
credit card. So
it's a
you put
debit.
okay.
And I've got it, you've got it on like your Apple Pay and everything. And then also, if you pay the $10 a month for like the free transfer fees and everything, you also get access to like airport lounges. And there are a whole bunch of other benefits. So that is access, not free airport lounges. It just gets you to be able to pay to go to an airport lounge. But if you have a long layover, that's totally worth it. So yeah, Revolut's like geared for travelers. I totally recommend it.
Yeah. We have a question about paying for extra taxes. Can you explain that a little bit? You mentioned paying for
Um,
extra taxes. A few dollars has to be paid when checking in. Who do you pay that tax to? If it's someone other than the hostel or hotel, is it paid in cash or can it be done on a credit card?
Okay, so yeah, I actually like practiced this presentation for my family last night, and they were like, "We don't need to know about the taxes." I was like, "They're gonna care about the taxes." So I cut it out a little bit, but yeah, I'm happy to go into it. So it's pretty frustrating, but as Americans, I think we're used to paying taxes like sales tax and stuff on things anyway. When you get to the hostel, when you check in, they will ask you, the hostel will take the city tax from you. Sometimes it's included, sometimes it's not. It's sometimes due in cash. So I'd recommend just getting some euros out whenever you travel. If you use Revolut, you can do that at ATMs and they'll take the euros in they'll already be euros in your account. So there's no fees there. And they range from like, I think in the cheaper countries, it's like 50 cents per person per night. The most expensive I've seen, and honestly, this is atrocious, is in Rome. It was €7 per person per night. When you're paying for a hostel that's like 20 something euros, that's ridiculous. So you don't get discounts on taxes with HostelPass because those are paid after. You don't get taxes, like those are just a separate anyway, but sometimes they're included and sometimes there's like a cap. So if you're there for a week, that you don't get charged after a week for taxes. So it's sad, but it's a reality of traveling. So just make sure you budget a little bit for it. And there's information online about every single place. I just didn't want to like go into every single place. So that's the range, 50 cents per person per night to €7 per person per night. But that €7 is ridiculous.
That is crazy. I just want to mention that there's so much love in the chat for this presentation and how packed with information it was before I ask any other questions. This makes me, I can't believe it's our last TNN event today, and it was such a good presentation. This isn't ending it. I'm just reflecting.
I could have gone on for way longer, so I'm glad that what I said was useful. There's a lot more where that came from.
Yeah. We do have two more questions about HostelPass. One is, can you add a student discount to the promo code?
Okay, yeah. So we have a 15% student discount on HostelPass, but this one you can't combine discounts with HostelPass. So the 30% is the better discount, so you should use that.
Okay. And then also, is it possible to see how does it work? Can you see the hostels before you get the hostel pass? Okay.
Yes, so you can browse everything. And this is what I wanted to point out, the hostel world, like saying they have discounts now. You'd have to be pretty savvy and do some math to figure out that we have such cheaper rates, even though their discount amount is higher. So like that hostel I showed you, we have a 20% discount and it says 20% on our site. Hostel World says 28%. But what we're giving you is a 20% discount on the cheapest rate that's available through the hostel. So if you want to play around, like on our website before buying a hostel pass, you can see all of our inventory. You can see all of the hostels and the discount amounts you get on direct booking rates with those. So you don't get the codes until you buy a hostel pass, but you can like play around and see, okay, so it says 20% off. I'm going to go to their site and compare 20% off that price to hostel world or book, whatever you want to choose. So that's if you're like really budget and into like figuring out the numbers, but I'm telling you it's cheaper if you do it through HostelPass anyway. So take a look on our site, you'll see everything we have to offer, and we are adding new hostels and new discounts every month. So we keep what we have and we keep adding more. We're a growing company. We've been around about a year and a bit more. So keep an eye.
Wonderful. And then we have also Sharon is asking, she's not going to Europe until 2024. So can you explain how you can delay your hostel pass if they want to buy it now, but start it later?
So when you do this buy as a gift thing, what you get is a voucher in your email for a link to, you'll get a link in that voucher to sign up and redeem your hostel pass for free because you've already paid for it whenever you want. And this is like a problem of mine, but we do not have an expiration date on that. So buy it now. You can use it whenever. And we plan to be around for a long time. So that if you're traveling in 2024 or 2025, like you can still buy it this way now.
That's awesome. And can you explain how you pick and vet the hostels on HostelPass? I feel like is useful whether you're going to get the hostel pass or not, to know what you should be looking for in a good hostel.
Such a good question. So location is huge. Staff is huge. Staff, there's a lot of turnover at hostels, but there's a general like vibe at hostels. And I look at reviews. So it's not just me now, but like when I was starting, this is how my process would be. I would look at reviews from like all the different sites that this hostel is listed on, make sure that they're all good. I visited almost all of the hostels on our platform. So like when I graduated school, I used this as an excuse to like visit all these hostels and travel more. But that meant that I got to be there and see, okay, yes, this hostel is good. There's free Wi-Fi throughout every single hostel we work with, so you can stay connected. There are security lockers, so you can store your bags and your luggage. There is generally just high standards of cleanliness. All of that stuff is really important to look for, just like the value on top of the price. So the free meals, the organized events, like sometimes they'll take you on pub crawls, they'll do like comedy nights. Like these hostels are more than just a bed a lot of the time. They're just like communities and places you want to go. So yeah, when you're looking for a hostel, look for all those things. Consider safety, cleanliness, location, and value, I would say.
That's awesome. And then I feel like this is a good question to end on, but can you just repeat the calculation methods to figure out how much you're likely to spend per day on average?
Okay, so let me go back. Hold on a second. And I'm tempted to like, okay, I'm like a little worried these numbers, when I was browsing them, they felt a tiny bit low to me because of post-COVID travel. I think like last summer was revenge summer and it's looking to be similar sorry for the distraction in the background. It's looking to be similar for this year. So this is my little map, and let me know if that my computer's frozen. Okay. So the Eastern Europe is cheapest. The way you can do this calculation, I would take the higher side of all of these numbers. Think about, I'd probably budget like maybe $1,000 for flights round trip and trains and planes, depending how long you're traveling. You can think about this, but like getting between cities, getting to Europe, because 1,000 will hopefully be more than you'll have to spend on all that stuff, but it means you'll have money left over. So subtract 1,000 from your overall budget and then divide what you have left by the higher side of these numbers and think about where you want to be for each one. So does that make sense? Like just then you can figure out how many days you can spend with the money you have. Because this should all be achievable if you're following these like budget tips.
Totally makes sense.
Cool.
Totally makes sense. I am going to leave it there. We're already 10 minutes over and I want to respect everybody's time. I'm glad if you were able to stick around. I definitely want to give a big thank you to Sarah for rocking it out on this presentation and for teaching us all how to travel around Europe and elsewhere on a budget. I feel like this was such an applicable and aligned conversation with our community that is just looking to stay on the road as long as possible. And so I'm really, really glad you were able to basically teach us new stuff. I honestly, lots of stuff I haven't heard yet, which again, I'm a little bit ashamed, but also you're the expert. So I'm really glad you came. I did want to say, well, do you have anything you want to close out with, Sarah?
I mean, just like, thank you. It's so much fun. I've done this once before, but like, I get so much joy just sharing, because like I think about this stuff all the time. I've got it just like locked in here, and to be able to be like, I want to help you all by all these tips. Like, thanks for giving me a platform to do that. I really appreciated it, and it was lots of fun. And how exciting to be your like final talk. So cool.
I know. And I wanted to say, like, for those of you, there were questions about like, could there be a follow-up presentation? The follow-up presentation is just called Being Friends with Sarah, because she's the she's the information holder, right? So if you have a question, just go directly to her. I've dropped her website, her Instagram, her personal Instagram, her TikTok, like all these things you can figure out your way to get to Sarah and just ask her your questions directly. That's what I love about these events. And that's what I've loved about these events. This is actually our 256th event in the last 3 years, virtual travel presentations. That's not like events overall. We've done over 700, I think. But it has really just, it's a joy to be able to put on these events for such an incredible community and to highlight speakers that have such a wide variety of expertise when it comes to travel. So I just want to say, as like a part of our last virtual event, like, thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for making this so much fun. Thank you for like all of your recommendations for like speakers and for sharing these with your friends and for bringing people into this community and really just having like showing the people in your life and like that travel is possible. And thank you for being lifelong learners and showing up and really just taking it all in. This community is incredible. We're not closing. This is just, we're sunsetting this part. I will just say I've heard time and time again that like people are really sad about us sunsetting this. So like maybe we'll come back in a different capacity. So keep an ear out about how that may exist in the future. I'm always flexible and I adore this community. It's been a true labor of love. And so if you stay tuned, you'll see what's happening. Thank you so, so much and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you.